And welcome back. We are here for a bonus episode of Locked On Chiefs. We're going to have a couple, actually, because it is the NFL draft. Kansas City selected linebacker Leo Chenal with the 103rd pick in this draft from Wisconsin, from the Wisconsin Badgers. I'm going to have Ryan Harings from Locked On Badgers talk to us about this pick when we get back. A lot to talk about when it comes to this pick and all the other Chiefs draft picks, and we will get into those a little bit later. But like I said, we're going to talk about Leo Chenal right now on this.
From the land of the free and the home of the Chiefs, this is the Locked On Chiefs podcast.
I am Chris Clark, host of the Locked On Chiefs podcast, and I have with me today Ryan Harings from the Locked On Wisconsin Badgers podcast, or Locked On Badgers. Ryan, thank you for joining us. We really do appreciate it.
Oh, glad to be here, man. Like I told you before, I could talk Leo Chenal anytime.
Yeah, and this is an exciting pick because I think you look at what Kansas City needed going into this draft, and obviously we're here to talk about the Wisconsin Badger, but looking at what they've done so far, they've addressed all their major needs, and line was one of those needs. I didn't think it was as high as the other four, but they absolutely needed to get a starting linebacker, and they absolutely did that in this case. So what can you tell us about Chenal?
Chenal is, first of all, he's a guy that we internally, as we've been talking about on the Badger side, that we thought he was a second round type guy. Physically, he is ready for the NFL now. There's nothing that needs to be done. He was ready for the NFL when he stepped on campus 3 years ago in Madison. I mean, he is a physical freak show. And he's a type of guy who it's not just a muscled up run stopper. He runs a 4.3 or 4.53 at the combine, 40-inch vertical. There's a relative athletic score that is done, and he scores off the top of the charts there.
9.99. I saw that.
With the fourth best inside linebacker grade since 1987. So this is a guy who, the knock on him, I think it got a little cliche that he's maybe not, he's just a thumper, he's a 2-down guy. This is an athlete that is also a thumper. And you're going to love him in Kansas City. He's just a total stalwart.
Yeah, and the thing that kind of surprised me about this pick, I will admit, I didn't think Chenal was going to be an option for Kansas City because I thought a lot of teams saw him as an ILB. Obviously, Kansas City runs a 4.3, so it's going to be a little bit different. He'll be more of an attacking linebacker. But it is a fit that I think is going to work with his size, his speed, and his athleticism, and his willingness to go after the ball. I think this is a pick that's going to try to help Kansas City shore up the run as well.
He's incredible against the run. I mean, they were playing Army this year, and Army's not a great team, but Army runs against everybody. They put up 250, 300 yards against everybody with their triple option. And, if you've ever watched high school film of really good players, 4- and 5-star kids, and they just blow up everybody and they have like 17 tackles a game, Wisconsin, Jim Leonard just put Leo Chenal in the middle of the Army's offensive line, and every play he just ran over the center and tackled the quarterback before they could even get the option going. Like, I've never seen that at a college level. Army plays Oklahoma. They play other major schools. Leo Chenal is just too much of a man against that Army team. And what you're going to get out of him in the run, you're going to get a physical presence in the middle of that defense. It's going to come downhill and just stonewall people.
Yeah, and it sounds like from what Kansas City's already said, they're probably going to play him on the strong side. You won't actually be the middle linebacker. That's going to continue to be Nick Bolton, who they drafted in the second round last year. So that's another reason this was a little surprising, because they already have that middle linebacker that played very well last year. But he is going to be a guy that can probably get after the passer a little bit. As you said, he's going to be a guy that can play against the run. The question I have, and really one of the things that I think people have questioned about him, is how he's going to be in coverage.
That's a great question. And it's really the reason he fell out of the first and second round, right? Is this question about coverage. What I would say to that, and I had a really good interview. I was lucky enough to interview Corey Yates, who's the CEO of Recruiting Analytics. And he basically, he has, for the record, he has Leo Chenal as inside linebacker 1 on his draft board, just based on his athletic ability, the analytics, how fast he is, how physical he is. And one of the things we chopped up, we talked about, the knock of Leo Chenal in coverage. Well, he can get after the quarterback. This is a guy that, if you're in the second or third round, there's not a linebacker you're going to pick that can do everything. You're not going to find a guy who can play coverage, who can play the run, who can get after the quarterback. So you're finding someone who can do 2 of those things, and Chenal, 18.5 tackles for loss, multiple sacks. He's a guy who can rush the quarterback. And if you're putting a quarterback in the ground, you don't have to cover tight ends or running backs in the flat.
Yeah, and his athleticism, I think, is going to be something that they're going to probably work on him in coverage, trying to get him to work on his drawbacks. so he can be one of those guys. Because I think one of the bigger things that I was looking at in this draft for Kansas City, when you start talking about the linebacker position, is Kansas City has Nick Bolton. They have an ILB. They have a guy that's going to be your normal, probably first and second down linebacker. They have Willie Gay, who's probably going to be a 3-down linebacker, but they didn't have that guy that can probably be another 3-down linebacker that can help stop the run and play the pass. And I think that's where Chenal is going to fit in. I think they're going to try to put him in there in a situation where he's going to have to play the pass more. And I'm actually okay with that because his athleticism is there. I think he can learn to do it, but it's going to be something that's going to take some time.
Yeah, he's not going to be natural at it.
Right.
No, I'm a bit of a homer. I have a bias here with Chenal. We all have biases, right?
Right.
That being said, there are concerns there with Chenal. He doesn't have long arms. He's not super twitchy or agile in space. I mean, he's not a 225-pound guy, right? So I think he can drop back. I think you can put him in coverage. It's something that he almost never did at Wisconsin, just because the guy was so good getting downhill. There was no point to put him in coverage. So I think the ability is there with his speed, but it will take some time, and it's never going to be a strength. Him in a zone or him dropping back is never going to be a strength of his. I think it could be adequate. And then you pair that with his ability to play the run. And what I think is going to be a really, really strong ability to get to the quarterback in passing situations. I think you're going to have an above average starter that you nabbed at the end of the third round.
And I think that's the big key is it doesn't have to be great. The big thing with Chenal in this situation and where I think he's going to play, if he's the 3-down guy, he's going to be on the field with Willie Gay. Willie Gay is a guy that's going to be able to cover. He's going to be able to do that kind of thing. You can use Chenal on the other side of it to try to help stop the run and to get after the quarterback, like you said. So I do think that there's benefits there.
Yeah, I think. And the other thing here with Chenal is intangibly, the guy loves football. Like one of the scouts I was reading, because I read a lot of the reports before the draft. One of the scouts mentioned, he's engaged now, but he's married to football. Like this is a guy who lives, breathes weight room. He benches over 400 pounds, 40-inch vertical. He is going to be a good locker room fit. He's dependable. He plays every down like it really matters, and those type of guys are important. You build your locker room character, your culture with guys like that.
No, you absolutely do. And when we get back, I want to talk to you a little bit more about what he brings to this team and really how he fits in, because I think the other thing that is being overlooked by a lot of people is how young Kansas City has gotten on the defensive side of the ball and just in general with this draft. But let me tell you about our friends over at Shady Rays. Shady Rays is an independent sunglasses company that gives you the features of $200 sunglasses for a fraction of the price. It means polarized lenses, well-constructed durable frames, and premium high-end finishes. Also, something you won't find anywhere else is Shady Rays' Insane Protection Program. Shady Rays includes lost and broken protection on every pair. They will send you a brand new pair if you lose them, no matter what happened. Give them a try, and if you don't like them or love them, you'll pay nothing. It's as simple as that. Exclusively for our listeners, head over to shadyrays.com and use code LOCKEDON to get 50% off 2 or more pairs of polarized sunglasses. That's code LOCKEDON for their best deal of the season. 50% off 2 or more pair of Shady Rays sunglasses. All right, so when we get back and we start looking at his fit in the system, one of the things that I think is really not talked about enough, at least with this Chiefs draft so far, is the youth they're getting to. Chenal, I believe, is 21, isn't he?
Yeah, he is 21.
Yeah, that is just insane. I mean, you look at the Chiefs draft right now, they have one guy that's 22 years old. Everybody else is 21 or, going to be 21 when the season starts. So very young, very talented. What else do you think he can bring to this Chiefs defense?
Part of it is he comes from Wisconsin, has developed a bit of a defensive culture. He plays for Jim Leonard, who is obviously a longtime NFL safety, really, really sharp guy. So, he's going to come in with, an expectation of playing exceptional defense. Anything less than that is not going to be. And again, it goes back to the culture that he has, the intangibles. He's a total winner. Like he's the type of guy who gives a crap about football, and I think that is incredibly important when you put people into the NFL and they start getting paychecks. He's not a guy you're going to have to baby. He's not a guy you're going to have to coddle. He's a guy who's going to show up and run over linebackers or run over offensive linemen.
Yeah,
so
and he's a professional from what you're saying. And it also sounds like you're saying since he was looked at as being an ILB, that's generally going to be a position where you're expected to be a leader. So he brings that intangible to this team as well.
And he, the thing about it too, his sideline to sideline speed is pretty good. There's some clips floating out on Twitter, and I didn't look them up before the show, but basically his ability to get to running backs on the edge, to get to, some of the fly sweep action, the smoke screens that they're throwing to receivers in the NFL, it's pretty solid. Like, he doesn't start and stop quite as quick as smaller players. He's 250 pounds, but
A
he
little
gets
bit different there. Yeah.
Yeah, and he's been clocked over 20 miles an hour. So you just think of a 255-pound guy running at that type of speed. Like, he's an athletic freak show. He's just packaged a little bit differently.
Yeah, and you start looking at what that could mean if his instincts line up with his play style. That is going to be a guy that's going to be a lot of fun to watch, and he's going to be getting tackles for losses in the NFL, going to help this defense get better. When you look at his fit, just in general in the NFL, where were you expecting him to go? You said
honestly,
second round, probably.
yeah, and we had some internal talks about it, and the Patriots were a team that we kind of thought with Bill Belichick is a guy who likes big physical players. So we just kind of thought maybe a Patriots pick in the second round, somewhere in there. The first round was probably never going to happen just because the NFL is so predicated on playing in space, basketball and grass type of stuff. But he's really a second round guy, in my opinion. I think the athletic tools measured up, and the productivity. We've seen in this draft guys get drafted without that productivity background, and you're really taking a chance on them.
Yeah.
Right. We saw with the Jaguars with the 1-1 overall.
Yeah. Trayvon Walker does absolutely, and that is a great point. He absolutely does not have the productivity you would want from the number one overall pick, but they're betting on his intangibles and the traits that got him to test off the charts. And that's a big plus. Looking at what he brings to this team, I'm really excited to see Chenal play, and I think that it's going to be a great addition to this Chiefs team.
Yeah, I think you guys are going to have a blast watching. Here's the thing too, if nothing else, and this isn't what really matters at the end. I mean, the Chiefs with the team you have and with Mahomes, you guys are out to win Super Bowls every year, but you guys are also just going to really like watching him play. And part of the reason we watch sports is because we love watching people play. And Chenal is going to blow people up, and it's going to be a lot of fun.
And you love watching people play with passion, and it sounds like that is absolutely who this guy is. It does sound like it's going to be quite the addition to this Chiefs team. It looks like Kansas City is going to be loaded with young linebacker talent for the foreseeable future. Any last thoughts you'd like to add?
No, I mean, I think we covered it. I think it's a steal to get a guy this late that's been that productive, that durable, that athletic. I think it's an absolute steal for Kansas City, and I'm really excited to watch him in the NFL and watch him progress for you guys.
I appreciate it, Ryan. He is Ryan Harings from the Locked On Badgers podcast. Take a chance. Go listen to him. He actually had a podcast. You said it was with who was the analytics guy? And actually, I retweeted it. Yeah, I just retweeted it a couple of minutes ago. So if you haven't checked that out, there's a lot more about Leo Chenal that you can go check out there as well. Ryan, thank you so much. Really do appreciate it.
No, thank you for having me on the show. I was really excited to get the invite. And low-key, Corey Yates, that recruiting guy, compared Leo Chenal a little bit to Luke Kuechly. Again, he has him as linebacker 1 on his draft board. And there's a lot of numbers that he has behind that. So
that's pretty insane. If Kansas City can get a guy like that, that's going to be quite fun to see. So thanks again, Ryan. Really appreciate it. And we will be back to talk more about the Chiefs draft here in just a little bit.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.